So there's no shortage of people willing to tell you how to be creative. There's books and courses and online programs and YouTube people, of course, and it's all like completely free nowadays. You could even have AI build you a personalized curriculum and check your homework. So then why do we still tend to kind of just sputter out? Here's the basic situation. You decide you want to make something. It's a novel, it's a comic, it's a song, a screenplay, start a business, any of those things. So that excitement is real. You really want to go for it. There's also uncertainty. You don't really know how to do it, and you know there's a couple different ways. So you want to do some research. Great. The internet is there. It is generous and slightly overwhelming, but it will offer you 17 systems guaranteed to resolve the uncertainty, made by people who are genuinely where you want to be. So you pick one, you dive in, you read the intro material, you work through the first few steps, and then somewhere at the step 4, your energy just kind of goes, it deflates. Not for any particular reason, not because there's an insurmountable problem, not because you decide you don't like their style, it's just like the magic is gone. So, and then the conventional wisdom is going to jump in at this point and say, well, you were just relying on motivation. Motivation gets you to the mat, and there it abandons you, which is totally true. You can't rely on motivation to do things. And then so they say, then you just gotta, get the discipline, do the boring stuff over and over again, just plow through, head down, burrow like a mole. It's a little difficult to see. It's not as easy as if you're doing a physical challenge, like you're actually running uphill, and you physically see you're closer to the top than to the bottom, and the only way out is through, that's the uncertainty of a creative endeavor is of a whole other order than that. It lives, it doesn't live on a hill, it lives in your head. The landscape shifts every time you look at it, and the methods, as genuinely well-intentioned as they are, can't account for that internal shifting. And the reason I'm making this is because I had a little epiphany about why this happens, because I've been on both sides of this. I've done and paid for and followed screenwriting methods, novel writing methods, short story writing methods, but nothing really sort of satisfactory. I've also been on the other side of this, the guy who created the method. So a while back I got into making comics. So the problem is I have zero artistic drawing ability and zero desire to acquire any. I've mentioned this in other videos. I tried to learn, I just hated every second of it. And most comics are made in a more compartmentalized fashion. There's like a writer and an artist, and you can break this down to as many people as you want. My scripts just kept piling up, and I went to conventions, and the number of artists that I met that all wanted to drop everything they were doing to be my personal puppet for free was zero, obviously. So I decided to get into 3D modeling software, specifically Blender I started with, because doesn't everybody? Eventually, I developed a whole workflow after a few months of experimentation for making comics, creating comic panels from the digital render that I'd set up in the little Blender space. It took a while to crack, but I was so thrilled. I'd essentially found a way to make comics that didn't require you to learn how to draw. Generative AI is still not great for comics. If you want the character consistency and background consistency. Once I cracked my method, I thought I have to document this, I have to share this with everyone, and I made a video series. It was like 10 or 11 videos, each about 15 minutes, but I documented every step, and I thought, the world is gonna love this. This is exactly what I wanted. If I wanted it, someone else must want it as well. But the world did not respond accordingly. Low view counts and just an occasional comment about a Blender issue or someone just saying, oh, here's an alternate way to do that in Photoshop or whatever. Helpful, but it wasn't really the overwhelming this frees me that I was expecting. Eventually I deleted the video series after, Blender kept adding updates, which rendered a lot of my stuff obsolete anyway. And where it gets interesting is I went from going, why doesn't anyone care about this, to having my little epiphany, to then asking, why was I naive enough to think that people would care? So I had completely forgotten about all the other methods I had tried by stuff I was passionate about, story writing and story construction and screenwriting and such. I'd picked up these methods with excitement and put them down with disappointment, but I forgot entirely all that when I created my own method because I was so in love with the thing I built, and that blind spot, I assumed that what I was offering was somehow different from all those other things, that because it worked for me, it's going to work for everyone. But what I missed is the thing that actually worked for me in doing that wasn't the method itself. It was the search. It was the months of experimenting, the dead ends, the weird discoveries, the moment something clicked, that whole messy, frustrating, exciting process. That is the creative experience. And the method I ended up with is just kind of the residue left over at the end of it. And then you hand people that residue and it doesn't really do anything for them. This is why, specifically for creativity like storytelling, these plot templates, these, lines, these designs you follow, these shapes, are inherently unsatisfying because you are not really being creative about it at all. And I know they're meant to... The theory behind them is somewhat sound. It sounds good, you've got to learn to play in your little box. But when you sit down with just like a plug-and-play creative template, you're just inheriting the skeleton of someone else's journey. What you thought you were getting was this living, unpredictable artistic experience, but what you actually got is just a map of, where someone else has already been. Maps are great if you want to get somewhere, practical as fast as possible by the most reliable route, but art is purposefully getting a little lost. You can't outsource the getting lost part. That's like the whole thing that puts your stamp on it. And none of this is to say that methods are useless or the people who create them are dishonest swindlers. They're not. I created one myself in complete sincerity, convinced I was doing everyone a favor. That's how it works. Someone discovers something that genuinely changed their process and they want to share it, obviously. That impulse is good. Communication between creative people is valuable. There could always be more of it. The issue isn't the sharing, it's what we imagine we're receiving. When you're starting out, if you're just starting out to write a song, write a story or whatever, you're gonna just be in total mimic mode, which is fine. You're gonna take the chords that they're all using and do them in the same order or slightly play around. You're gonna build something that's very similar to what has been before in order to learn the vocabulary, get the feel for it, and that's fine. But at some point, the training wheels stop being training wheels and are just kind of, become like this rigid track. You need to experiment without a guaranteed outcome, to follow something because it interests you, not because it's on the list. Even if you learned how to write songs a certain way and something you've played really, really pulls at you, but it's not according to the rules. Well, that's hopefully your first step of really getting your own individuality in there. If you resist that process, if you resist your own putting your own creative interpretation on something because you're following a method, then that method is no longer doing what it's supposed to do, which is supposed to just give you a little boost. But what it has done now is to just become a ceiling that you've forbidden yourself to grow past. I led into the music thing here because I've been playing music, pretty much my entire life. And when you're a kid, you have to learn music theory, they call it. It's just the language, the vocabulary, the notes, the rules. And it's like being in school after you're done with school again, and everyone hates it. But then I read a book just a couple years ago that blew my mind, and I wish we would teach this because it's exactly the reason these methods fail, and I could have just thrown the entire video under this whole quote. And it was by a composer and musical educator named Paul Hindemith. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But he said, music theory doesn't say how music must be written. It shows you how music has been written. So that's it. That's the whole thing. That quote. Every method, every framework, every creative system ever produced is not a set of instructions. It's a record of someone else's findings, what they found when they went looking. And they left that record for you as something to look at, to draw from, to learn from, not to follow exactly. But when we create our own methods that work so well for us, we get so excited that we want to share them with everyone, and we think it's going to change their lives, but it's really probably going to hold them back if we come at it with this attitude like, this method I created is going to absolutely work for you, just follow it step by step. That's not going to work with a creative thing. Use the method as a jumping off point, not a destination. Stay curious, make a mess, keep going. Thanks.